In today's episode, we will be tackling one of God's wonders on earth, mountains. They were mentioned several times in the Holy Quran. Their mentioning was often associated with Earth's formation, creation, then establishing life on it and its development. Also with how they play a role in maintaining life's cycle and guaranteeing its continuation in addition to describing their destiny and their surah in the Judgment Day. Around Earth's genesis, its formation, and the role of mountains in it, God Almighty said in Surah An-Naba,
أَلَمْ نَجْعَلِ الْأَرْضَ مِهَادًا وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا.
Mountains have a key role in the establishment of human life on Earth, for they were taken by the ancient tribes as homes and refuge. They are still a shelter for humans and various living creatures such as insects, animals, and plants. The presence of mountains is also associated with the presence of rivers. Mountains act as a natural barrier in front of clouds loaded with rain. So, when the rain falls, it is stored in mountains and then explodes in the form of rivers exploited by humans and by all forms of life on Earth. As for the movement of mountains, which we think are still, God Almighty said,
وترى الجبال تحسبها جامدة وهي تمر مر السحاب.
Between the lines of these verses and significances that involve the presence of mountains from the beginning of Earth's existence to life's establishment on it until it ends, mountains remain a life component that are under God's control. He says in Surah Al-Hashr, God Almighty said,
لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله.
There's great truth in God's creations and in the wisdom they hold. In mountains' shapes, colors, heights, secrets of existence, exterior and interior, are astonishing and great marvels that leave us bewildered before the greatness of the Creator and of what He has created. There are several possible explanations about mountains. While some scientists limit the movement to the Judgment Day manifestations and wonders, others see that mountains' movement is mentioned in the Quran to represent a cosmic wonder in the life cycle, the genesis of Earth, and the formation of its continents. The German scientist Alfred Wegener assumed at the beginning of the 20th century that the Earth's continents were all one when formed. They then drifted apart in different directions away from one another and got dispersed with their mountains and valleys. Wegener wrote in an article he published in 1915, land masses were combined with each other 500 million years ago. They then got divided into two parts about 180 million years ago and formed two large continents. The latters were again divided into smaller parts 30 million years ago. Continents are considered to be in constant movement, which is estimated to be a few centimeters per year, as scientifically proven. For every year, the Atlantic Ocean expands slightly, for example, due to continental drift, which causes a change in geology. Scientists explained how mountains move. They said that a mountain is a region of Earth that sharply rises from the land around it. Mountain ranges are a large group of mountains stretching along thousands of kilometers with a belt-like structure, such as the Himalayas in northern India or the Alps in the midst of Europe. In the Himalayas, there are the highest peaks in the world. They were formed about 45 million years ago when two continental plates collided. So, these ranges were formed and emerged as a result of this forceful clash. There are some mountain ranges in Northeast America whose formation dates back to 1,000 million years ago. Scientists said that mountains have a horizontal movement relative to Earth plates. For example, the Indian plate moves with the mountains it carries, several millimeters each year. So, mountains move, pass, and are pushed as a result of the thermal currents of the layer under the roots of the mountains. The Quran talks in detail about the creation of the mountains being pegs and peaks. They have different colors, which humans didn't know before. Mountains are referred to as pegs in reference to their rooting below the surface of the earth for long distances, and not just being bumps above the earth's crust. This truth wasn't scientifically revealed until the second half of the 19th century, when Sir George Bedell Airy came up with a theory. The theory sums up how the Earth's crust isn't an appropriate basis for the mountains above it. He assumed that the Earth's crust and the mountains above it are just floating on a sea of dense rocks beneath it. For that, mountains must have roots extending with the high exposed area to ensure its stability and firmness. This scientific fact was not known until a short time ago when the core of the Earth was photographed using advanced technology, which were unknown before. It was found that a mountain is not only visible partly above the surface of the Earth, but it is rooted as a peg in the ground. The underground part is what holds the mountain in its place. As God Almighty mentioned, these mountains, pegs, and peaks are follow mentioned by rivers, as mentioned in Surat An-Nahl. And he has cast into the earth the firmly set mountains, lest it shift with you, and made rivers and roads. They are, at the same time, bumpers against wind laden with water vapor. So, it moves upwards, it cools down, condenses, and descends to earth in the form of rain. From heavy rain, rivers come. For that, we find that the mentioning of rivers after peaks was not just for the sake of counting the marvels of God's power in the universe, but there is rather a scientific relation of cause and effect between them. It has been proven that mountains are important in affecting the climate, as it plays a key role in the formation of clouds. The clouds, as we know, are responsible for rainfall. High mountains contribute in the formation of snow. After this snow melts, mountains contribute, by its interior rock structure, in purifying this water and storing it, so that it bursts into fresh rivers. The Holy Quran also talks about water purification and the key role of high mountains in that. As God says in Surat Al-Mursalat,
وجعلنا فيها رواسي شامخات وأسقيناكم ماء فراتا.
which means water with a pleasant taste. Not only mountains contribute to the movement of clouds and rain may contribute to the mountains movement. This has been proved in a recent study conducted by scientists from the British University of Bristol. A new technique allowed these geologists to have a more accurate understanding of how water movement affected the highest peaks and deepest valleys on the surface of our planet. It is well known that huge amounts of rain are able to carve mountains by making rivers penetrate rocks faster. However, scientists also believe that rain can dismantle a normal area fast enough to remove rocks from the ground. This makes it able to move mountains very quickly, and this was confirmed by the principal investigator, Dr. Byron Adams of the Environmental Institute of Capote at the University of Bristol. Similarly, researcher Colleen Whipple, a professor of geology at the University of Arizona, said, "Our findings prove the importance of calculating rainfall when assessing tectonic plates patterns, which is the plate activity, using surfaces contours." It is also a fundamental step forward towards determining the extent to which corrosion, led by the prevailing climate on the surface of the Earth, may control the slipping in the cracks between the plates. These plates that carry mountains and move them. Given the importance of mountains to life on Earth, the United Nations has declared in 2002 the 11th of December of every year as International Mountains Day. Mountains are considered home to about 15% of the world's population and to a quarter of wild animals and plants in the world. They also provide fresh water for half of humanity. They cover about 27% of the surface of the Earth, and they play an important role in pushing the world towards sustainable growth. Their conservation is considered one of the main factors for sustainable development. In light of the climate change facing the world, threatening human and wildlife on the planet, terrains and mountain ecosystems as other environments face many risks with increasing severity. But mountains, due to their high and ecological nature, affect and are significantly affected by changes in the global climate. Wildlife expert in the WWF, Imre Kotoko, has confirmed that mountain ecosystems have been highly affected and are faced with numerous threats due to the backdrop of the phenomena of climate change and global warming. He explained that water resources in mountainous areas are endangered and that many living creatures are threatened by extinction. This, noting that mountain ecosystems are extremely sensitive and they have a unique biological diversity and they are home to many species. Mountains are of several types. There are 5 main types of mountains. First, fold mountains or folded mountains. The folded mountains or fold mountains are the most common type and the largest mountain ranges in the world. They were formed over millions of years. This type of mountain is formed when the collision of two continents' plates upside down is followed by their edges collapsing, just like bending a piece of paper. Examples of these types are the Himalayas in Asia, the Alps in Europe, Andean Mountains in South America, the Rocky Mountains of North America, and the Ural Mountains in Russia. The Himalayas were formed when India collided with Asia and formed the highest mountain range in the world. As for the Andes in South America, they were formed by the collision of the continental plate of South America with the Pacific Ocean's plate. Rift mountains. They are formed when cracks or crevices in the Earth's crust push some materials or blocks of rocks to the top and the rest to the bottom. The Earth's crust disintegrates instead of folding and breaks into pieces or blocks. These rock masses move towards the top and the bottom. Blocks of rock separate and accumulate above each other. Rift mountains usually have a sharp front side and a sloping backside. Examples of this type of mountain are Sierra Nevada Mountains in North America and the Harz Mountains in Germany. Dome mountains. This type of mountain arose as a result of a huge amount of molten rocks, which make their way upward towards the Earth's crust without exploding on the surface of the Earth. These molten rocks push layers of superimposed rocks at a certain stage until they cool down and form solid rocks. Volcanic mountains. It is a type of mountain that forms when rocks within the depths of the Earth melt and accumulate on the surface. They are called volcanic lava. When they penetrate the crust of the Earth, and when the ash and lava cools, they build a cone of rocks. Rocks and volcanic lava accumulate on top of each other. Some examples of these volcanic mountains are the St. Helens Mountain in North America, Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines, and the Kia Mountain and Loa Mountain in Hawaii. The fifth type is Plateau Mountains. The reason for the formation of these mountains is factors of erosion. Plateaus are large, flat areas that have been pushed over the sea level by great forces from within the Earth, or they may have been formed by layers of volcanic lava. They are also vast surfaces of high levels of the Earth with an elevation of more than 600 meters above sea level. Plateau mountains are usually located next to the fold mountains, but with time, streams of water and rivers eroded the valleys across the plateau, and the mountains were left standing between the valleys. Some plateau mountains are the mountains in New Zealand. After this exciting journey that made us recognize the importance of mountains in our lives, their continuation and preservation, and how fascinating and creative landmarks they are in the world of beauty and magic of nature, we realize with science more of their secrets and impact. How much purpose God has put in His creations that will always be beyond humans' comprehension, no matter how long they live.